Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. So for today's video, I have new 2020 Dollar Tree Christmas decor crafts. And I'm not gonna lie, the wreath is my absolute favorite. I saw something like this on Pinterest, and I will leave the original link below, and I fell in love and I had to recreate it using Dollar Tree materials. So today's video is sponsored by Green Chef. Thank you so much to Green Chef for sponsoring today's video. Green Chef is a USDA certified organic company, and they include dishes for a variety of lifestyles, including vegan, vegetarian, paleo, and keto. So if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I used to do a ton of HelloFresh videos, and I still love HelloFresh, but HelloFresh actually owns Green Chef. So together, I love switching between brands, so I get a bigger variety of meals. Everything is handpicked and delivered right to your door, and ingredients come pre-measured, so you don't really have to do much. Cooking is super duper simple, and for the holidays it makes my life a lot easier because when I can't get to it, my husband can just follow the instructions and cook along. And we love including our daughter in these. If you've seen our other videos, you know that we include her a lot in our cooking videos. So make sure to go to greenchef.us/JAYDIY90 and use code JAYDIY90. You get $90 off including shipping on your first box. That's JAYDIY90. I'll leave that up on the screen and of course in the description. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Once you hit subscribe, we instantly become best friends.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
And please hit that notification bell. YouTube may or may not let you know when I post a video, but if they don't, follow me on Instagram, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm starting off with a super simple tutorial using this glass vase. They have these all the time at Dollar Tree, and some floral foam. I'm just using this one because it's easier to get in, but this is meant for real flowers, so if you have the other one, you can use that one as well. I wedged it in, and now I'm going to cover this up. This is a handkerchief from Dollar Tree, and even though I love this pattern, it doesn't really match what I'm going for. So instead of using this, I'm going to use some burlap, which I had. This isn't from Dollar Tree, but you can use the handkerchief or any of the scarves. To hold it in place, I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree twine and tie a little knot, but of course you can use nautical rope, you can even add ribbon or little bells, whatever you'd like. I found these little picks at Dollar Tree, and I just decided to assemble them to make this look like a faux tree. Last year they did have fuller picks, but I'm pretty sure they still have them this year. They just went really quickly. So I'm just starting my way from the bottom and then working my way up to the top. I used 4 in total and then 1 of just berries to fill it in. And wherever there were too many pine cones, I just cut those down and placed them in another location where it looked a little better. So you can totally do this with 4 or less of the little picks. Burlap was a little long, so I cut it down, but if you use the handkerchief, it's actually a pretty perfect size, so you won't have much hanging off. I'm just doing this because it's a little exaggerated, and I love how this turned out. In the party section of Dollar Tree, they have these little napkin rings, but if you can't find them, you can use book rings or whatever you have. I'm also going to use some natural raffia, and I'm going to take this and make it into a braid by tying off the top, braiding down nice and straight by holding it down. You've seen me do this on my channel about 1,000 times. And then when I get to the bottom, I'm going to tie it off and hot glue it in place so that it doesn't unravel. Once I cut, I'm going to start to work my way around that little ring. And of course, if you use a smaller ring, you're going to have a much thinner braid, so that's up to you. And when I get to the very bottom, I'm going to add some hot glue so that it doesn't unravel, and then tuck that in. This is one of my favorite and easiest tutorials, and to make this Christmas theme, I use these Dollar Tree stickers, which the snowflake, I just painted it white. If I had used something else other than raffia, I would have kept this natural wood, but because I used the raffia and I wanted a contrast, I made this white. In the kitchen section of Dollar Tree, I found these bamboo skewers. Usually they're a summer item, but for some reason they're still available now, so I'm not complaining. Because they're pointy up top, it's really easy to make these into a triangle shape. So I'm going to shape them and cut them down using heavy-duty scissors. And to glue them, I'm starting by holding the top and gluing the bottom since it already has the taper up top, and then gluing the top. When you hold it in your hand, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about, but the taper should be up at the top. Now I'm going to add one in the middle. Last year at Tuesday morning, I found these really pretty Christmas trees that were made of metal and had this kind of woven design. Since then, there's been a ton of Pinterest projects using wood and yarn, which is what I'm using. So I will link one below, which was really helpful with creating this tutorial. I'm using Dollar Tree yarn, and they have a ton in different colors, but I wanted mine just a regular beige. I'm going to take a bit and wrap it around my finger, and then I'm going to cut that down to create little tassels along the bottom by just grabbing my yarn, looping it, and then putting the ends through until I cover the entire bottom. I did all three, and you could leave it as is. I think it looks really cool this way, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the woven yarn. So I'm starting by hot gluing this on one end and then wrapping it around the middle and then around the other side, and then just going back and forth until I create a little zigzag. Like I said, you can leave it with just the wood pieces. I think it looks really cool, but since I had so much yarn, I figured why not? And this is actually really easy. Just make sure that you're not squeezing too tight, because then you start to push in the sticks and it loses its Christmas tree shape and starts to look a little bit more like an Eiffel Tower. You can see that happening here. I did a better job on the smaller ones, but when I get to the top, I just kind of wrap that around and hot glue it in place. To create the little stand, I use these little things, which I found in the Crafter Square section of Dollar Tree, and I remove the top, and then I'm just going to sand that down so nobody gets hurt. I have used these before in another tutorial where I show you how I bend popsicle sticks, so I'll link that below if you want to check that out. And now I'm just going to hot glue my little Christmas trees in place. And it doesn't look exactly like the Tuesday morning one or like the one I saw on Pinterest. I still really enjoy how this turned out, but next time I just won't wrap too tightly so it doesn't have that weird Eiffel Tower effect. So now for the top, I'm going to use these beautiful stickers from Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to use the star ones, and I'm just going to hot glue them in place. Even though they are stickers, I do reinforce with hot glue, and look at these beauties. So in the Crafter Square section, they have this clay, and I did review it on my channel, and I wasn't in love with it, but since I did buy it, I am going to make use of it. So I decided to take everyone's advice and use a non-porous surface and wet hands to roll this out and make little gingerbread men. Now, I still stick by my initial review. I would not really recommend this, even though I did love the results in the end. But it did do its trick. The cookie cutter I'm using is from Target, but Dollar Tree does have a set of cookie cutters that has gingerbread men, and every time that I would get a few out, I'd wet my hands again, roll it out into a ball, and continue to push some out. Now I will tell you this, the thinner ones did dry quicker, but they were super duper fragile, so I would rather make less and have them be sturdy than make really thin ones, but I was just trying to get as many as I possibly could off of this pack. So if you see here, I'm actually wetting my fingertips and smoothing it out. This clay does do a very beautiful job at smoothing out flat surfaces. If you saw my review video for 3D stuff, not so much, but if you're using it for ornaments, then this is actually pretty awesome. I got a decent amount out, and it did take about 3 days to dry completely. Now, this isn't the clay's fault. It's just that my craft room is freezing cold now. For some reason, my craft room is just an ice box. So when I did the stem tutorial, it still wasn't freezing, but for this, it was cold. So 3 days later, and some of them are still kind of wet, but I need to move forward, and I'm going to use these little puffy paints, which I found in the Crafter Square section of Dollar Tree. And I'm just putting little designs on there as simple as possible. I love these because you can use them as gift tags, as ornaments, you can use them for whatever you want, but we did make use out of that clay that I didn't love, which is all I wanted to do. This is what they look like when they're dry, and you can put these on a tiered tray for decor, and the best thing is that they were only $1 for all of these. In the seasonal aisle, I found this DIY wood sign in the shape of a gingerbread man, so I just decided to have it match my other little ornaments, and for that I'm just going to use a shade of brown and a beige shade to try and match what the clay looks like when it's dry. This was really easy. I don't really even think you need a tutorial for this. I just painted it brown and then added in some shades. I love that Dollar Tree has all of these wood cutouts now because I really think that you can customize so many signs and so many wreaths with these. So I'm just painting everything in, and then I'm going to go in with the same puffy paint that I used for the ornaments, and I'm just going to add some 3D details so it looks like royal icing and add a little face. To be completely honest with you, I was a little sloppy with this because I should have waited for the entire thing to dry, but I was just impatient. So here's my little dude, and he will be used in my next craft, but how cute is he? In the Christmas section of Dollar Tree, they have pool noodles. Usually pool noodles are only for the summer, but I was happy to see that they have Christmas colors because obviously people want bigger wreaths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one and split it down. A lot of crafters have made pool noodle wreaths, and normally you would just tape 2 pool noodles together to make one large wreath, but because I have so many heavy things, I decided to take my pool noodle and kind of wrap it around a hula hoop. The reason that I'm doing this is because the hula hoop alone is a little thin, and if I just do the pool noodles taped together, then it's not going to have a perfect round shape, and whatever I add that's heavy to it is going to start to slouch. So this is why I did this method, and then I grabbed another one and just filled in that spot right there. So now with my glue gun, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to wrap around this garland. Honestly, not a fan of the garland. I think it looks really flimsy, but when you start to wrap it around a thicker area, it does really look nice. And if you want to make it look even nicer, you can flock it. There's a lot of flocking techniques using Dollar Tree materials, like spackle and water. I believe Mama from Scratch did a video where she used a few items for flocking as well a few years ago. So for this whole thing, I did use 4 of the garland. So this isn't exactly a super duper cheap wreath, but trust me, it looks so beautiful. I was looking up gingerbread ideas and found this gorgeous wreath on Pinterest. I'm going to insert the inspo pic, and I'm also going to leave the link in the description because this deserves all the hype. Now I'm going to use these garland ties from Dollar Tree, and the reason I'm using this is because I don't want to glue stuff on here. I want to be able to remove this and use my wreath base over and over and over again since I did spend a good amount of money. So I'm hot gluing it in place, and then I'm duct taping it in place so that I can hang this Dollar Tree muffin pan without any issues at all whatsoever. Look how perfectly that blends in, and you can always remove it. I'm going to use the gingerbread that we created, but if you don't want to use these, and I actually don't recommend using these, Dollar Tree has these felt ones. I'm going to use the same method. I'm going to hot glue this to a garland tie from Dollar Tree, and then I'm just going to start wrapping them around. This also helps because if I don't like the placement, I can always slide it up and down or just remove it altogether. Now, the reason I say that I recommend the felt gingerbread instead of the ones that we created using the clay is because if you want to put this outside, the clay is not a good idea. It's also pretty heavy. So if you have the felt ones, use those. I'm using some Dollar Tree baking utensils, which I found in the kitchen section, using the same method, which is just fishing in my little garland tie and then twisting it in the back. With some of the berries that I had left over from the first tutorial, I just cut them down and I kind of just stabbed them into the foam. If you want to hot glue them down in place, you totally can. But again, I'm trying to avoid using hot glue, even though I'm still going to. Just make sure that when you're using hot glue, that your hot glue is extremely hot, and that once you place your item, that you're not sliding it around. Once you slide it around, it is more prone to fall off. So just make sure that when you have the placement, that's where you're keeping it. I added this beautiful buffalo check bow, which I found at Dollar Tree as well because they've really stepped up all of their gift options. And I'm just going to twist that around one of the pieces. And then to bring this to life, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that pizza pan and I'm going to start adding some accessories. I glued some cupcake liners, which I found at Dollar Tree, to the tin. This is another reason why I recommend this being an indoor wreath rather than an outdoor one. And then I found these little measuring spoons at Dollar Tree as well, which I used another garland tie to hold them in place. And then I added dabs of hot glue so that they stay in the position that I like. Next, I added some pine cones. These are small pine cones from Dollar Tree. I would have added cinnamon like the original wreath, but I couldn't find the giant ones from Dollar Tree. So I am just popping these in just so there's a nice even shade of brown and red. And I love how this wreath turned out. So that's it for me. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know which one you'll be recreating. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out Green Chef. The link will be in my description, and use code JAYDIY90. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you on the next one.